Mark Kermode. Right, I'm leaving you to it.
Thank you.
You have a 5-minute intro, and then we're off, and then we'll be back afterwards, just so Mark was submit to answer all your questions about it. So stay in your seats.
Okay.
Mark, over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's wonderful to see so many people here to see the film. 25 years ago, I made the Fear of God documentary, which was celebrating 25 years of The Exorcist. And I had obsessed about The Exorcist for that full 25 years. I was 10 when it came out, so I wasn't old enough to see it, but I obsessed about the poster. When I was finally old enough to see it, I'd read the book and the making of book and the script and the other script and every article about making of the film. It still was utterly electrifying. I went on to write a bunch of articles about it, make some radio documentaries about it, and then I wrote a book about it, which Alan very kindly said should have been called Everything You Never Wanted to Know About The Exorcist, but was scared that Mark was going to tell you anyway. He is. So when The Fear of God happened, and we had the great privilege, Nick Jones and I, of interviewing pretty much everybody involved in the film, it was kind of the culmination of something. And my wife said to me, do you think it's time to move on? And I said, actually, yes. And I make you a promise that when we're through this, I won't talk about the film ever again. So welcome to this 50th anniversary screening of The Exorcist. One of the things about the doc was that obviously we spoke to all the filmmakers, and crucially William Peter Blatty and William Friedkin, both of whom are no longer with us. Bill Blatty passed a few years ago, Billy Friedkin, as you know, just a few weeks ago. I do want to say thank you to both of them, because although they're not here, they are still here because we have their work. And just thank you for making the film, which changed my life. I wouldn't be where I am, I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for this movie. And I hope that I told them that enough. I'm very grateful to them for putting up with me for all those years. You know, it's that annoying British journalist on the phone again. He wants to know about the missing 3 minutes. But when we were doing the doc, there was some scenes that Friedkin had cut out at the very end of the editing process of the film. And he said that the reason he cut them out was that when he was looking at the final assembly, he didn't want the film to stop at any point. He wanted the audience to just be kind of swept along. The phrase he used was, he said he didn't want any point at which the audience could stop and go, hang on a minute. Well, Bill Blatty always did want the hang on a minute moments. Because for Bill, the film, although it is a horror film and it is horrifying, he always thought of it as positive and uplifting, because his philosophy was, if there are demons, then there are angels, and then there is probably a God and a heaven and a life everlasting. And some of you will know the film. Is there anyone who hasn't seen the film before? Yeah. Okay, well, you're in for a treat. The crucial thing is that Bill Blatty always saw it as an absolutely positive and hopeful. And there was a kind of slight friction between Blatty and Friedkin, and I think it made the film what it is, that friction between them. But when we did the doc, we had found the missing scenes, and they were largely dialogue scenes, moments of theology, a little break in The Exorcist, in the exorcism in which the two priests discuss what's all this about. And Friedkin said, well, I cut those things out because I felt that they were moments that slowed the film down. And he said at the time that he wouldn't go back and put them back in again, because he cited the case of the French Impressionist painter Pierre Bonnard, who was arrested in the Louvre with a paintbrush touching up one of his own paintings. And security guards grabbed him, and he said, but I am Bonnard. And they said, it's hanging in the Louvre, pal, walk away. But a couple of years later, Friedkin kind of recanted, and he went back and he put those scenes back in. So there are now two versions of The Exorcist, the first version and the second version. They are both director's cuts because they were both absolutely Friedkin's, but the second one is perhaps slightly more towards Blatty's sensibility. I don't think there is a definitive better or worse. I think that in the same way that Friedkin and Blatty were having a conversation all the way through the film, that the fact that there are two versions of the film means that that conversation continues even now. I actually really like the breathing space that that version has. I mean, obviously there's the spider walk as well, which has kind of become quite notorious. We had a version of it in The Fear of God, which is different to the version of it that's in the film. The version in the film is much more shocking, much more sort of punchy. But I think the fact that there are two versions, somehow it's like Bill and Billy are still having that conversation. So I'll leave you now to watch the film, and I'll come back afterwards, and if you have any questions. The one thing I do want to say is this. Everybody thinks of the film as being terrifying, and as horror film lovers, you will know that one of the great things about being genuinely terrified is that it's sublime, and it is ecstatic and transcendent. You know you're alive when you're watching something that's really getting you in the feels. So as you watch it, try and take a moment, and this, I'm not being ironic about this, but to appreciate the beauty of it, to appreciate those lower key moments, the moment when Chris McNeil is being interviewed by Detective Kinderman and nothing seems to be going on, but everything is going on. The moment when Karras goes to visit his mother and it's a beautiful domestic scene, the extraordinary stuff at the beginning in Iraq. And you'll notice all the way through the film there are doublings. The film opens with the sound of a dig in Nineveh, and then that sound comes up later on in the bedroom with the banging bed. You see the face of the woman on the droshky, and later on you see that same flash of a face in a subway. All the way through there are doublings. Bill, Billy, two versions of the film, two ways of responding to it. See the beauty in it as well. It really is the greatest film ever made. Thank you.